Hi, everybody. Welcome to CURVEX's Mental Health Podcast. I'm here with Dorthe Hummel. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I was hoping you could introduce yourself to our audience so they can get to know you a little bit.
Sure. And by that, I will introduce you to my story for why I'm here and how my journey got to where I'm at today, which is back in 1988, where I went to high school in the US. And they have quite a different lifestyle than we do here, or at least compared to what I came from. I was an elite gymnast and not necessarily being super aware about my diet or anything, but at least super active. And so I went living a typical American diet with no exercise at all. And the furthest I walked was to the car. Yeah. And I was 17, so obviously I had a lot of going out. Sure. That lifestyle was fun, obviously. So, but that had some consequences. So when I came home, I can literally say that my physique was totally messed up. I had constipation. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't remember. I was tired all the time. I was super pale, probably because I was only staying up at night. So all that I was curious about, how come I'm not feeling well? And how come I feel so tired all the time? I mean, being 18, I shouldn't be that struggling with old woman lifestyles, but that was how I felt. And then I started my gymnastics again, and I realized I was like really heavy, really slow and everything. So I got curious about nutrition. And I was like, there gotta be something more. There gotta be something better. Yeah. This is not going, I'm not gonna accept this. My allergy was exploding and everything. So I dived into the nutritional part and I studied anatomy, physiology, nutrition, and then tried to change all that besides losing the 10 kilos that I had gained, which I couldn't do before that. I could never gain any weight, but I could. Yeah. I just needed that kind of diet and lifestyle. Yeah. So I changed it and I realized that, wow, I feel really energetic and I can work out a longer time and, everything. And all the curiosity is just evolved, actually. Yeah. So I just put more and more onto this and then started to get into supplements and finding out how does that, if we add some more onto this nutrition, can we even feel better and stuff like that. Yeah. And that led me to the nutrition world, if you can say. I was in health business for many years, both in health food shops. Yeah. And then I was in a supplement business also for American company, actually, Solaray, which is huge in Denmark. And I did some lecturing for them and, trying to spread the word about health and also keep expanding all this. And then I was I had a clinic here in Copenhagen, in Kødbyen. And all of my clients wanting to see me was actually what I call super motionist, which is, high level of exercise, but not professional. Okay. So amateurs having high expectation to whatever sport they're in. Yeah. And I was like, am I fit for that? Am I even equipped not to actually, consult whatever they needed information about? So that led me to two sports nutrition educations in functional sports nutrition and also in what you call classic sports nutrition. And by helping these people, I realized also that there was a lack and need for some other supplements that was not on the Danish market, at least. So actually, I developed my own supplement series. So I was, that was only 2 years of fun with that, because that's a lot of money and that's a lot of marketing and stuff like that. So, but before that, actually having so much focus on the physical part, optimizing, because there's also always new levels. So when you get this, everything is working out, you feel so good, not only weight-wise, but in general, how do you feel? How is your sleep? How do you manage stress and stuff like that? There's always a next level. So I was always looking for the next better level. Mm-hmm. But that was always at the physical part. And that was 12 years ago, I think, no, maybe 10 years ago, when I hit a really bad burnout, serious burnout. From having 2 years, I think, with the illness in my family. My dad has lung cancer. Back then, we knew he was going to die. That was a long ride. And my husband back then, he was also suffering with a mental depression. Yeah. And his dad was actually ill also with the cancer. And at the same time, I had my own health shop, and I had 2 little girls. So I just had to, figure things out. And obviously, when my dad, he died, I had my burnout. So that took me 10 months to recover from that. And from recovering from that, I was, when I I just said, all right, what do I need to learn from this? Because you cannot run from it. And I was eating healthy, I was exercising, I was doing all the right things. Yeah. But how come that I burned out anyway? So that was my next step to this journey today, because I realized, okay, you can live so healthy, do all the right things, and still be so miserable. So that was like, okay, I need to know something about this. So I started my first, usually I add things on, that was my first coach certification. That was in life coaching, which obviously also gave me some insights to this. And then I started on my own, which I always do, research on psychology, neuroscience was my interest. And and most of my clients that comes to see me, they are very high performing. Yeah. And most of them are super interested in all of this. How do I eat the right thing? How do I use the right exercise and stuff like that? And I'm always like, you gotta focus on the mental health. Yeah. Not only, neither one actually, but both. Both, yeah. Because they communicate. Yeah. And that's, what do you call, when you realize what combines these things, the biochemistry, that was when I realized, okay, my conclusion to all this is that we are so individual, but we need to add all of these things. Because usually people ask me, what can I do because I have this? You cannot do just one thing. Yeah. So that was it. And then with the sports nutrition part, which is not only for athletics actually, but with that on my cap, I got the knowledge of DNA therapy. That was back in 2013, but back then it was probably too early. But that's the whole thing about combining these things. So that is what I do today. I help high performer in sport and in business life actually, which could be anybody, normal living people who wants to just optimize. Optimize, I would say, is probably my main word for what I do. Yeah. Because you can optimize, as I said, there's several levels that you can increase. And that's also mental. Yeah, that is. Yeah. It's so easy to when you're on some kind of path to reach a goal there's almost like an infinite amount of levels. And then when you're making progress, every day you're like, okay, well that's 0. Let me get to 10, and then every day, so you're constantly almost resetting, and you get kind of in this trap where nothing is ever good enough, and you're making progress, which is of course great, and you can be doing things with financials or your body, your mental health, your relationships, all sorts of things, but somehow, kind of like I guess what happened to you, even though all these things are happening, you can totally get destroyed. So what do you say to people who are definitely being successful but still are having these mental health problems? How do you help people retain their ability to be successful and stay on the path, but have some also go back a little bit or change? How do you help them deal with that? It's actually quite interesting, because most people think that this is not data-based. Mental health or mental balance is not data-based. That's why it's kind of blurry. Yeah. The result is kind of blurry. Yeah. In the contrary of the physical part, you can track anything. You can have blood tests, urine tests, whatever, or whatever measurement that we spend today and we use to track ourselves. So they have data, and that's far more easy. Oh, I lose weight, I can look on the scale. I lost 10 pounds, so now I know I lost weight. So the mental part is always about being aware. So much about being aware. Yeah, it really is. And I always look at it like the mental muscle, if you can call it that. Sure. You should be exercised just as much as you go to the gym. Yeah. It requires so much focus. Yeah. And we just neglect that. Yeah. So actually we should get taught that in the school. Yeah. But it's a consistent thing. So when we, as I said before, when you reach that one level, like when you have a goal, you forget about the progress. The progress is actually super interesting, because if let's say I want to attend a triathlon, an Ironman, for instance, I cannot do it today because there's a way to it. I need to train whatever is necessary for it. But when I get there, there's always a next level for that.
Yeah.
I could improve how fast I do it or whatever results that I want to reach from it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when I do it with the mental health or the mental balance. It's about getting focused, being aware of where are the issues, what do you need. Yeah. And if I should sum it up, actually it would be, if people should do more for their mental health, that would require they look at themselves as athletes, actually. Athletes, they always focus on recovery. And we should do that the same.
We should, yeah.
And also because mental energy always has a lot of consumption on the mitochondria, which uses energy.
Yeah.
So when that is overloaded, obviously, we use too much energy, which has an effect on our mental balance. So how do you actually make sure that battery is reloaded like we do on our phone?
And just to be sure, the mitochondria, that's in the cells, right?
That's in the cell, okay. That's a powerhouse, actually.
Powerhouse of the cells, yeah.
We all have them.
Yeah.
And actually, of course, when the older we get, it's like an engine, it's like an old car that I used to compare with.
Good analogy,
When you have an old car, obviously, when the older the car is, the more you need to repair it or fix it or use the right oil or fuel or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with humans.
Yeah. Okay.
And especially the more we get, the more that our subconscious mind is loaded with information that we do due to life, the more difficult it is to track out of that. And then we just live by autopilot. So it's harder actually to get out of that.
Yeah.
Which is also, what kind of language do we have? What do we tell ourselves? What kind of negative noise, as I usually say, outside external noise is a lot of really damaging thing. Yeah. And today we're living in, the society we live in, the Western world, is so fast. We get so much overload on our brain and our whatever we need to exceed at.
Yeah, well, it's not only the noise that's external, but there's also a lot of noise internal. And there can be noise external, and you can be just fine. But if the noise internal is damaging or violent, which it really is, there's a civil war in our mind going all the time. And so the idea is, well, how do you deal with this? And just like how you said we don't train ourselves, or take care of ourselves. When I help people online, I tell them, okay, well, think about how often you brush your teeth. You do that probably at least twice a day. And what happens if you don't?
Yes.
Well, your teeth start to rot. And they said, well, how often are you taking care of your mental health? And they don't. And I said, well, why do you think your mental health is as bad as it is? It's just people don't have this awareness that they can do this. So how do you, when you meet these executives or high performing people, how do you show them the importance of taking care of yourself and convince them that they actually have power to make a difference on their mental health? Usually when people consult me, they don't think they're stressed, for one thing. Yeah. And stress hormones, we talk about that so much, cortisol levels, but it's super important and it's super crucial actually to be aware of that. Yeah. So when I ask, how is your day when you perform it on a daily basis? Most people work from 8 to 12, 14 hours a day. And that is super crazy. Clear. That is exhausting for whatever, not only physical, but also mentally, of course. And then when I ask them these questions about, do you have headache during the day? Are you exhausted during the night or during the week? Usually we compound things during the week. So we spend, and then when we reach Thursday, Friday, we're exhausted, and then we recover during the weekend. We're probably doing something crazy. We don't even think about it. Yeah. And that's a good sign that you are overloading your mental health indeed. So probably there's a chance of you having a higher level of cortisol. And that cortisol has not only on the physical brain, but certainly also on the mind, the psychology, the mental health. Yeah. So what you could notice is, how do you speak to yourself? What have you noticed the language you use for yourself during the day? And most people don't. And that's why I think mental health in discussion is so new, because what to be aware about, when do I know I'm doing something wrong? Yeah. And we know that we have all these thoughts during the day. I don't know, you probably can tell me it's 60,000 thoughts or whatever. I don't know the number. That's certainly a lot of thoughts, I mean, the good thing is that we don't hear them all.
Yeah.
But if you take control of your mind, then when you learn to actually be super conscious about what do you want, what do you allow in your mind on a daily basis, as you say, the internal noise.
Yeah.
So when you start to get aware about that, that's when you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's like the first step.
Okay.
Try to notice when something goes wrong. What kind of emotion, because our thoughts actually ignites some kind of emotions. So when you feel an emotion, that's call to action.
Yeah.
You need to do something. And when you have a feeling of, that could be, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel that I'm not good enough, I feel insignificant or whatever, that's a negative emotion. As soon as you feel that, it's probably because a thought you have on your internal.
Of course, yeah.
It could be interpreting some external, whatever information we had, somebody else doing something better than you, could it be? Or somebody saying something to you.
Or you're just not doing good enough. That could easily, a lot of times it's just you on yourself, just being hard on yourself. You could be number one by far and still hate everything that you're doing, like it's not good enough, or I messed up, or
exactly. And it's actually spending so much energy on your mitochondria again. So we're back to the biology and the physiology. You are overloading your physiology by having the internal noise in your head.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we can say that there's a direct relationship between what you eat and how you train your body with how you think.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons that you got into these supplements and medication, or not medication, but I guess health supplements, is because of this relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are like the most benefits that people receive from training, physical exercise or eating healthily?
It is, I think, getting the cortisol levels down for one thing. That's also always the most important thing, actually. And it's not like cortisol is all bad, because we need it also, but in the right portions and at the right time, but definitely also not on a chronic level. That's the important thing, because as long as cortisol, which also increases a lot of bad things, but it definitely also affects your blood sugar and stuff like that. And that's the things that you have so hard to conquer.
Yeah.
So what was your question again?
Well, it was just about the relationship, because about all these things and how important they are. Because, well, for me, I found that when I got into physical health, that alone, like working out, that alone made me more interested in also eating healthily. And that also made me interested in mental health. And so I realized that when you train, one, that gives you this discipline and awareness of, well, actually, I do have a lot more power over myself than I thought. Because before I got into this stuff, when I was a teenager, much like yourself, I thought the way that I was thinking and my body was just, this is the way it is, and I have no influence on it. And so when I started making a little bit of progress in one, I thought, well, this is interesting. I can actually really do a lot here. And that gave me the motivation and discipline and confidence to do a lot of other things. So it started off slow, but just the beginning, it's almost exponential in all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so that made me want to take care of my body and take care of my mind and take care of my relationships and the way I speak to myself, the way I speak to others.
Yeah.
So that was one of the greatest benefits for me is actually this type of discipline that you get.
And actually self-care. I can
self-care.
hear. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you care about yourself, and you take care about yourself, as you said, your confidence, of course, grows. And when your confidence grows, you can see it in your body language, which affects your neurotransmitters.
Sure, yeah.
And it all, I mean, you just get happier when you eat healthy.
Yeah.
It's that simple, actually.
Yeah. And then when you're happy, you train better, and then you're going to school or working better, and then you have more energy for
you get rewarded
for the other things, and then you sleep better, and there's it all kind of builds on itself. And so people think, oh, it's too difficult, but it is difficult in the beginning. But just like when you go to the gym for the very first time, it's awful. You don't know what you're doing. It hurts. You're sore. But and also when you study, you're tired. When you work, you're tired. When you do all these things in the beginning, you're of course tired and it's difficult. But you build on those skills, and they're all different. Like you said, it's like a muscle. Your mind is like a muscle, and when you train it, eventually, just like you can lift heavier things, you can handle more life stressors.
Yeah.
How do you help people with dealing with stress in the various areas of life, whether it's athletics or in the workforce or personally?
Well, most people don't actually think, they're used to ignoring stress symptoms, which is the world we live in. So most people get surprised when I say there's probably a stress response, an overload of cortisol.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can hear it from how they act, how they treat themselves, and how they crave crazy things like we do when the cortisol is actually just killing our inside.
Sure.
So usually it's about prioritize. It's about selecting whatever is on your plate. Yeah. And I don't mean the physical plate. I mean your whole life. You have to be super selective. Yeah. Because we don't do that in the daily time. I mean, we are all over. We're working with so many tasks at the time, and obviously that's not good for anybody's brain, for one thing. So it's more. Most people always ask me, what can I add to help get rid of this? Yeah. And I'm always like, what can we remove?
Sure, yeah.
Which could be the crap you're eating.
Yeah.
Which could be the television that you don't need, like right before you should go to bed. Yeah. It's more what I can remove from their plate.
Yeah, I mean, we all have a physical, like a food diet, but we also have a mental health diet. Like,
absolutely.
What are you consuming? How often are you on social media? And what are you getting in from that? How much news are you consuming?
What kind of conversations do you allow? Which is very negative.
Do you complain a lot? Are you around people that complain a lot? You know, so all these things. So it's kind of like you are what you eat, but you also are what you listen to. So if you
what you're surrounded by.
If you surround yourself by negative people, you're gonna think the world is so negative. And I know a lot of people that are just like, oh, the world's just falling apart. But I also know people who surround themselves with positive people, and they're just like, the world is so beautiful. Like, I'm blessed to be here. Even right now with the situation that's going on with war or whatever, people still say the world is so beautiful. But it really depends on, you know, of course,
where do you look?
Where you look, and there's always going to be conflicts and challenges and obstacles. So it's very much up to you to prioritize. Pick your battles, like you said. You do what you need to do. Pick your battles, so you're not focused on these other things, but really doing, well, what are the few things that you need to do to take care of yourself or drive you or give you passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there could be some simple things in the daytime, like breath work, for instance, which is super simple. Yeah. And does have so much impact on lowering the cortisol.
Can you tell us a bit about what that even means? What is breath work, for example?
Well, it's like people think that they're breathing every day because otherwise I would be dead, they think. But breathing right to actually in the abdominal, when you breathe really low, deep breathing. Okay. When you do that, it affects the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the communication on how stressed are you. Sure. So when you lower your nervous system, when it calms it down, you also lower the production of cortisol. Yeah. So those two, you cannot have chaos and an easy parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. Those two cannot combine. So it's either one. Okay. So you can control your nervous system by deep breath. And it just,
So right now I can feel like I'm obviously breathing. So what would be? Like a deep, like a.
No. It's not in the breast in the upper area. No. You have to breathe through your nose first of all. Okay. And you breathe oxygen into your lower stomach, and it's super difficult sometimes for people because we're just used to breathing in the upper. Yeah. So you just breathe into your nose, and you have to focus on getting it all the way down to the deeper. You might get a big, and don't raise your shoulders. Don't raise. Yeah, it's only in the stomach. Breathe in through your nose.
It's tricky. It's almost like a new. I have to learn how to breathe.
It's a new skill.
Differently, yeah.
Yeah, but you breathe through your nose all the way down to the lower of your stomach actually, and then it might get big, and that's the purpose of it. And then you just slowly breathe out again.
Okay. Do I hold it for a bit, or do I just?
You don't have to. Okay. It depends on what you're using it for. But if it's for lowering the high stress level, you just take deep breath in. And sometimes people say, I don't have time for that. Yeah. And I usually say, do you often go to the bathroom? And they're like, yeah, sure. Sure. Do it there. Take 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all you can do in the recovery phase during the day. Yeah. Everybody has that. You also have a minute. Yeah. Or it could be before a presentation. Then it's something else. But that's one thing to do. That's like in the daytime when you recharge your battery.
I already do. I actually, that was just once. I already feel like I just settled down a little bit. That's it's very interesting.
It's super interesting. And actually before an interview, before a meeting or anything that's important, just lower it because you will have so much sharper brain focus or whatever. So it has so much impact.
And you would do this for normally some minutes or an hour or
in the daytime, I only do minutes. It's like 1 minute here, or 2 minutes there. It's not like a long session that I do, but usually in the morning when I do consistent, really specific breath work, it's 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then when I do the breathing in, you know, you can do box breathing. It's called a lot of things. Wim Hof does something, Soma does something else. There's a lot of fancy terms on it at this stage.
But those are all the same box.
Yeah, it's all for the same purpose.
Okay.
And it has so many beneficial effects, obviously. Yeah. But when I do that, it could be combined with my meditation, for instance. I have been doing meditation since that burnout 10 years ago.
Yeah,
every day. I mean, it's kind of like I have to do it.
Sure.
My day just starts wrong if I don't have my meditation.
And can we talk about that practice? Like what like the actual routine?
Breathing?
Yeah, the routine that you have with meditation. Yeah. Breathe the whole step by step.
Yeah.
You know, is it you wake up in the morning? And
I wake up in the morning. I start my breath work, which could be something like between 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And in those breath works, you do deep abdominal breathing and breathe out, like 4 in, 4 out. And then it could be, for instance, every 3 or 4 times, you do a deep breathing, like fill up with a lot of oxygen. Okay. And then you hold your breath, and then you press from the abdominal, push in the stomach.
Physically muscle. With your hands?
No, I'm just pointing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then you flex.
Press it, you push the oxygen to the brain, and then you hold the breath.
Oh, okay.
And you just hold it, and then you exhale. There's a lot of trauma release. Sure. There's a lot of other things that it has. It also lower your PhD, I was about to say.
Your pH levels.
Your alkaline levels.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of benefits. Okay. It's also improving your digestion and stuff like that. It has a lot of benefits. And then after breathing exercise, then it's like the thing you feel like you want to, which is going into meditation. And then I meditate for at least 20 minutes after the breath work.
So this is like a 40-minute routine that you do every single day?
Yes.
Okay.
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's because I realized back when I was burned out, that's also why I always encourage my clients actually to try at least to look into that meditation. Maybe you should start with 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But studies actually show that 20 minutes of meditation with, of course, with the breathing, which most meditation has, that has a study from how it affects your cortisol level, your stress levels up to 24 hours.
Okay, so this will last, if you do this properly, it's a whole day.
Yeah.
So that's all if you just do this every day, you've got this kind of defense for a whole day.
Yeah. And it's better to, which I know people, they only want quick fixes.
Yeah,
they only look at this when they need to. Yeah. They don't look at it when they should prepare something, which is actually much better, of course. Yeah,
that'd be like saying, only brush your teeth once you have a cavity. Exactly. But it's all wrong. So what you're saying is we should maybe get people involved in this sort of thing probably as one of the first skills. Like, why not, like when you're learning math, why not also learn to breathe properly?
Yeah. How about
back
recovery?
when you're like in second grade or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you get resistance from these people that say, that's not for me, or
I cannot sit still,
I'm not going to make money from meditating, that's not going to solve my problems, how do you encourage them to go through that?
Just by baby steps.
Yeah, baby
Just
steps.
Try it out, see how it works. I have a lot of clients, they use it when they feel it has an effect because they're usually so stressed out.
Yeah.
And then they forget about it. Yeah. That's how human are.
Sure. Yeah. What are some symptoms of this burnout stress that people don't know that they have until you actually point it out? So our viewers can actually think, I do that. Like, what are some of the most normal or obvious symptoms?
It could be bad night's sleep. Okay. It could be headaches. It could be constantly distracted. Neck pain, headaches, craving. Yeah. Bad mood. Yeah. Usually, and then weight gain, of course. Yeah. Okay.
Or I guess weight loss, depending on. I guess that could be all sorts of different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then once you start doing this kind of meditation, breathing, how long until you start noticing results?
Well, we're back to the thing that you mentioned before. It's more about taking care of yourself. Yeah. So when it's most high performers, it's so interesting because somebody just asked me that actually when I was in Poland.
Okay.
So one of the most significant things about high performers is that they don't allow things to themselves. It's like they seek permission
permission to take care of themselves, because usually they have a lot of decisions to make on behalf of others. Yeah. So normally they don't think of it like, I need to take care of myself, unless somebody gives them the permission. They don't know who they're seeking it from, but it's super interesting. So part of starting out with a short meditation, you kind of communicate to your brain that it's allowed and it actually feels good to take care of yourself, to actually be stronger in the long run.
And I guess, is it kind of like how I said earlier, when I was talking about myself about doing physical exercise in school and all these things to build up these muscles, is a meditation kind of the same thing, where in the very beginning it's uncomfortable and it's maybe weird and you don't know what to do and you don't see results, but you have to break through this barrier and then you kind of strengthen your meditation muscles. Is it like can we say that, like you have meditation muscles where you get stronger at the ability to do that? Yeah. Okay. One thing I heard was that a big problem that people have with meditation is that's when in the beginning a lot of really bad thoughts come, and so it appears as if things are actually getting worse. Do you ever have clients experiencing like even more, and how do you help them get through this, or explain that this is part of the process?
Yeah, but that's just by explaining it. It's okay, and nobody can shut off their brain. I mean, it's something that we chase. I mean, it could be so nice to just sit here and not think about anything, but our brain is designed to think. So of course you cannot just shut it up, because that must be that when you're dead. So of course you should not. You should learn to control what to think about. And I must admit that most of my best meditations still today, even having doing it for so many years, I still prefer the guided. Because my brain is also all over. I mean, it's like a Labrador, running around all the time. So I like to be guided. Okay. But that doesn't make it worse or bad or anything.
No. Everyone has their own style.
Exactly.
So you'll actually listen to a recording if someone's speaking.
Yeah. Most of the time, unless it could be some frequencies for the brain,
which like I know that you music or
which I know that you also track with yours. So that could be it, because I know how my brain needs to relax, to recharge, and another frequency. Yeah. Okay. So that could be it also.
And so some of these things, you were talking about DNA earlier, and can we go more into that? Because that was super interesting, and I wanted to bring it up, and then we got off track. But can we go more into the DNA? I'd love to hear what your DNA, was it DNA therapy? So what is that exactly?
Well, it's about looking at the individual from a functional medicine perspective, which means that since we are more than 7 billions, I think, more than something, 7+ billions on the planet, and not two genetic profiles are equal. So, which makes sense, because why would we then approach each of us the same way? Okay, And I mean, the genetics obviously have a blueprint, each of us. Sure. So that's why I do that with my clients. I do a DNA profile.
And how do you do that?
It's it could be salvia, it could be
just like a little swab.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's blood print, so it's more what's more convenient for the lab, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But but that's how I track that. You can see all the lifestyle dispositions that we are all coded with, because we have a 50% coding from our parents, our ancestors and stuff. So the thing is actually that when we know the individual need or the obstacles, then it's easier to navigate. Okay. So that makes the optimization according to your lifestyle, your nutrition, your exercise, whatever you need, it makes it easier.
So just off of someone's DNA, that will give you indicators on how to best coach somebody. Okay. Could you give me an example of like, well, one person had this DNA, so you went that way, but another person had another DNA, so you did something completely different? I'd love to hear how that has a role.
Do you think about it in terms of the mental issues?
Sure, yeah.
Because actually, I think the last year or year and a half, they're always expanding the panels for what they're looking for. And one of the new panels they have is DNA Mind, which is super interesting, because that's all the cognitive issues. And also how the dopamine and the serotonin affects us. And I thought that was super interesting, since I work with high performers. Are they even genetically coded differently since they can perform at that high level? Or what are they driven by? Is there a biochemical need they have since they always exceed at that level? So I thought that was super interesting. So yeah, you can see some genetic needs probably, which could lead us to why we had, of course, there's adrenaline junkies that definitely must have something. But when I see something in that profile, that could also mean that they might have a risk of high stress levels also. And obviously some of them have, of course. So we make some strategies for controlling that pursue of more dopamine, for instance, or we could make the dopamine effect on how they're motivated more beneficial instead of draining their physiology. Yeah,
this is like a biohacking. It sounds
it is.
So you were a biohacker.
Yeah, I just don't like the term because actually I've been a biohacker since I was 18 and before the word even is shown.
Yeah. Back with all this medicine and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what it's about. It's about increasing and improving the potentials and whatever we are coded with. Yeah. So now it's a term. But this reminds me of the nature nurture debate. I was like, are we who we are because of our genetics, or are we who we are because of the environment and how we've been raised? Both.
I also think that it's both.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, even though you have the information from your blueprint, it's only 50% of that actually determines what is actually going to be a reality in your life, because the environment, the epigenetic is what it's called. It's what the external effect on what you do with the genetics. Yeah. So it's whether you pull the trigger or not. Yeah. And that is obviously the environment from the outside. Yeah.
But I mean, also the environment. I mean, you also have an ability to override the environment. Like when we were talking about your these breathing work and Wim Hof, you've been able to do some pretty incredible things to resist or block out the environment with your expeditions and things. Can we talk about the power of Wim Hof and the breathing exercise and what that's done?
Especially from the expedition, do you think?
Yeah, well, anything. I mean, I think what Wim Hof does is actually just fascinating. It's amazing what you can do. I mean, there's like a story where he was injected with some kind of virus or parasite, whatever, and and normally that would just knock somebody out and they would feel miserable, like a headache and just like vomiting and stuff. But with his breathing exercise, he was like, I'm okay. Yeah. Just by breathing it away or something. Crazy. So it's fascinating. But you've had some more experience with this.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Well, I'm also very interested in especially how we code it in the environment. Yeah. So our subconscious coding, or whatever you will call it, the coding through time, I'm super interested in about how do we change that? Yeah. And even though we can be aware of it and we can communicate it, we cannot change it because it's coded data. Sure. So how do you change that? And by knowing that our physical body actually stores the information, that was what brought me to the breathing, to the deep breath work. How can you change that? Because you know the traumas are also coded in your physiology. So that was my journal, my beginning for doing really extreme breath work, and Wim Hof, of course, was one of them. And I think it's super interesting what he can do with it and what he can prove with, immune system, stress levels, and depression and stuff like that. And when we went to this expedition in Poland, the task was to actually not listening. We were going out in minus 20 degrees, only wearing shorts and tops, of course, for the women. We were only two. And then going into this freezing water and just our brain tells us, this is crazy, please get up. Yeah. Will you please get up? This is melting ice, this is very cold. Yeah. And then ignoring all the noise, all the language that are telling us things, which is of course our fear and flight mode that are telling us, go out of this. Yeah. And try to ignore it by calming the nervous system. Again, we're back to the deep breathing, calming the nervous system. Because when the nervous system is calm, you cannot get all fired out about being fearful. Yeah. Okay. So that's how you actually start to learn to control all these external, well, it's also internal, but the external effect with the cold has an impact on the internal fear alarm system. Yeah. By calming that, you can ignore the external. And that's how you use this. Yeah.
So you're in the middle of, you're submerged in ice cold water, but just by breathing in a certain, is it the same that we mentioned earlier? Mm-hmm. So in breathing that, you're able to just, there's signals that are telling you this is dangerous.
I'm panicking. This is fearful.
But somehow you're able to to not.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And is your body shaking, or are you just kind of just?
When you're in the water, it's not. I mean, of course, you shouldn't stay there for forever.
Yeah, just don't hang out there all day.
No. That's when it's not. That's too much, of course.
Yeah.
But by being there and then controlling your breathing, because when you allow the panic situation, you hyperventilate, and that's when you shut off all the blood circulation, which is when the nervous system is calm, then it believes you're not dying. And when it believes you're not dying, it doesn't have to put all the blood into the most important organs, and then you can control how you will stay warm, actually. But of course you don't stay warm. But you don't get panic, and you don't hyperventilate.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, so we said don't just hang out in the water, but Wim Hof, he was able to do this for
it's a crazy long time,
Yeah, how long exactly?
I don't know if he's the one with the record, but I know that there's a guy trying to beat that record for it's 3 hours.
Okay,
I'm not sure if.
But he was also able to climb
to base camp at Mount Everest.
He went to Everest.
Yeah, he didn't. I have to correct you. He did, because I have a mountain climber as a client, actually, and she said he didn't climb to Mount Everest. He climbed to base camp.
Okay.
But it's still probably 5,000 meters or something, 6,000
with just like underwear.
Yeah, and sneakers.
And sneakers. Yeah, and sneakers. So that proves. So basically, what he's doing this is proving that if you know how to take care of your mind and do simple like just breathe. Yeah. If you breathe, then you can block out all these things that
fearful thinking.
Which normally have so much power over you, and normally as soon as they come up, we're so reactive to our thoughts, and we think as soon as fear comes up, oh, I got to avoid that, or desire, I got to go for that, or whatever. But now we're saying that, well, actually, when these thoughts are coming up, like
you could breathe out of it.
So what? Like, you don't. If you have an addiction or an urge to maybe eat food or be lazy on the couch or run away from something, you can actually not let these signals.
Basically, yes, and it's so crazy, because sometimes when things are so right in front of you, so simple, then we don't rely on them.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it's so simple. It's like, it can't be that simple.
Exactly.
Because you think these are all such big problems, and therefore we need equally big solutions.
Exactly.
But what we're saying is now a very simple solution to the biggest problems.
Yeah.
And if you start training at an early age, you just like brushing your teeth. As soon as you have teeth, you can take care of the cavities of the teeth and of the cavities of your mind to block these things out.
Yeah.
And this works also for your executive coaches who maybe not so preoccupied with their physical physique, but they want to do well with finances and power and negotiations and all these things.
Be super sharp.
So this same technique also works for that as well.
Absolutely.
And for our younger viewers who maybe are still in school, it would also work with the stresses of performing well and school and all the pressures of you got to impress people with your grades and your first interview and your first job and internships. It works. It's like a universal thing.
Well, basically, if they could just have a meeting in the morning for whatever, 10 minutes before, 20 minutes before, and then let's do breathing. And besides just high performance, it could also be get to know yourself. Get to feel yourself, because part of this is also about listen to your body. It has a language. I mean, symptoms is imbalance. That's actually a language from the body telling you something is not working. I don't really work that well with this, whatever you're feeling me with, or I need to rest or whatever. Try to learn that, and you do that by breathing or meditation or stuff like that. So it could be so simple.
It sounds really simple. We're almost out of time. Is there any final remarks you have for any takeaways for viewers who are watching? Like, what could they do to start this at home? Who doesn't have someone like you who could coach them personally? But how would you start making these changes in your life?
And that's always the golden question, because it's the one thing.
And I guess I kind of contradicted earlier what you said, like everyone's different, so don't do the same thing.
Exactly.
And now I'm saying, what's one piece of advice? So it's a bit contradictory.
But of course, if you have to start somewhere, I could say eat healthy. It's like what's healthy for me? I'm eating all this. This should be healthy, but it's not for your genetics.
Exactly.
We don't know that. But we could try at least to focus on cut off sugar, for instance. It could be more like what not to do.
What not to do,
yeah. Don't eat too much sugar. Make sure you get your sleep. It's still basic things. Do breath work. Take care of yourself, actually, because try to listen to your physical body. I mean, whatever symptoms, imbalances, whatever, it's a language. It's trying to tell you something. So that's always what I do with my clients, actually. The first week before we meet, I always tell them, put log your diet for the next week. With all kind of a reaction. Do you get headache? Do you get tired? Do you get constipation? Do you whatever? And just by getting aware about how am I actually working, that's one step. So people could start by tracking themselves pretty easy without all kind of fancy devices or whatever. They could just put a logbook on yourself to find out, how am I actually reacting in the daytime? Am I having any negative thoughts? Oh my God, why did I have that? So that could be start to look at yourself. And
then with that you can see, it's easier, I guess, to start just let go of all this stuff, because then you might be able to see the weights, these unnecessary weights, not necessarily like pressures, like not necessarily like diet things like sugars, but also, am I doing things that I don't need to do? Am I spending money on things that I don't need to do?
Exactly.
Or where am I spending time? How much am I using on the phone? Or
be selective.
Just see, like, where are you doing all these things, and just let those go, which gives more freedom, more peace, more time, and more energy to focus on what's best for you.
And to that, I would actually say, if you consider yourself as a high-performing top athlete, you would take really good care of, well, I hope, otherwise you wouldn't perform very well. So that could be one thing. Look at yourself as a top athlete. Because then, like that. Then you would definitely take care of your recovery, for instance. I mean, everybody should focus on recovery on a daily basis. Like, prioritize it. The most important thing on my daily schedule. When can I recharge my brain, for instance, during the day? That could be every time I go to the bathroom. Or when do I hydrate, for instance, or is it only coffee or soda or whatever? So take care of yourself, like you were a high-performing athlete going to some kind of huge competition.
I like that analogy, and I think it's been a great discussion. Thank you so much for joining.
Me too.
Thank you for joining. I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll see you next time. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for watching our mental health podcast. I love recording these. I love that you love watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or you can share some mental health tips. See you next time.